The Stop Drop Gaming F1 show is brought to you by Stop Drop Gaming's F1 2014 Sunday Night Leagues for Xbox 360 and soon F1 2015 on Xbox One. Visit stopdropgaming.com today to sign up.
Hello everybody, welcome to Stop Drop Gaming's F1 show, and I am your host Stewart, and tonight with me I have Ollie, EJ,
Hello.
and
Hello.
Stephen J. Hayes.
Good evening.
Yeah, how's everyone doing?
Yeah, it's been a lovely day.
It's been a lovely day, but I'm bummed out.
Why are you bummed out, EJ?
Max didn't finish again.
So what is everyone's opinions on another Mercedes win, seeing as the whole dominance of last season, plus winning 3 out of the 4 races? Do you think that we can quite clearly see the performance edge is nowhere near as big as last year, but do we think going into the European season they can extend it and push Ferrari away, or do you think Ferrari can leapfrog them?
I think it's nice to see that Mercedes aren't dominating this season. It's nice that there's another team, Ferrari, who are right behind them, and I'm enjoying the battles.
EJ, what are your opinions on this?
My opinion. I do think Mercedes got the edge, but the reliability is questionable because brakes were failing at Bahrain. But I think Ferrari will catch up in Spain. They have to, or the championship goes get boring again.
Well, I'd like to state that the fact that Bahrain isn't notoriously heavy on brakes with the heavy braking zones, but isn't really a similar situation at Barcelona in, 3-4 weeks time?
3.
So do you think we could see the same issues there, Stephen?
No, I don't think so, because Barcelona's a testing circuit. So Bahrain, there were 3 major braking zones. If you were watching the build-up on Sky, I think they were talking to Alain Permain, and he said that, but nowhere near Canada. So I think the biggest test, as was last year, will probably be Canada. But I think Spain will be fine.
Okay. With that all in mind, Kimi Raikkonen has had a great couple of races. He finally nailed together the great starts, what he's been doing, like what we saw at China. He also had a great start in Bahrain this last weekend. Do you think Ferrari are going to go for a deal later in the season, or do you think they're going to even offer it to another driver, or do you think they're going to wrap it up, whether motivations are concerned for them? What are your opinions, Stephen?
I think it very much depends on what Sebastian Vettel is saying to Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton in the build-up just stirred up a little bit of controversy over to do with his contract issue, didn't he? He said that he wouldn't ask for number 1 status like Sebastian or Fernando, which kind of makes you wonder how much of a say perhaps does Sebastian have into who his teammate is. Certainly Ferrari have come out and said that they want to have an open policy. There is no number 1 status, but really, is that just for the press? Is that just for the fans? Raikkonen had a great race at Bahrain. I do think that Ferrari got it slightly wrong with the strategy. I think that they could have brought him in sooner, and that would have put him closer. Whether, if the Mercedes had the issues, he would have had a race-winning pace and car, I'm not 100% certain. I think the issues that the Mercedes had did sort of make the Ferrari look better than it actually was, perhaps.
EJ, would you
I
like
have to agree with
add anything?
Stephen.
Ollie, do you think motivation could be an issue for Raikkonen, and they may delay giving him a contract till late in the season?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, we all saw the shock result. Well, I like to think it was a bit of a shock result, with Alonso getting, 14th in qualifying? However, on the other side of the coin, we had Button doing 17 laps all weekend. we have troubles at McLaren. This is undoubted, whether them getting the package right and straight up reliability. But with the European season coming up, is there light at the end of the tunnel, EJ?
I think so. Honda announced that they're going to have a big upgrade in horsepower. And McLaren, the session is getting better and better, so I think there will be a step up.
Ollie?
I hope there is for Jensen's sake. It was very unfortunate to see him not start the race on Sunday. Alonso made big gains, so he finished P11, didn't he?
Correct.
So I mean, in the points maybe in Spain, possibility.
Stephen, do you think the fact that it seems that the Honda engine is down on power in comparison to the others, and Barcelona will require a bit more downforce than, for example, Bahrain, do you think this could push, well, not make them as competitive if the car doesn't have major upgrades?
Well, I think everyone's sort of looking to the start of the European season for upgrades, and I think that's probably going to be a detriment to whatever the McLaren team put on the car. There's no doubt that the McLaren car is better than its immediate competitors with downforce, so it should benefit around Barcelona, but it's certainly down the straight it's going to struggle. I think it's all going to depend on really what Ferrari do, because Ferrari are talking about bringing a big upgrade, aren't they? I'm not sure if it's going to make it for Spain or if it's going to go on to Canada. Now, I think it's going on to Canada, isn't it? But I mean, if they make another leap again, I mean, where's that going to leave McLaren? Because the engines that the Ferrari team supplies, essentially, they're the teams that, or the car, Sauber, sorry, is the team that the McLaren need to beat to start consistently getting in the points. I mean, Ollie's right, P11, fantastic achievement. He was 4 seconds away from scoring a championship point with a car that supposedly got 100 brake horsepower down. So there's no doubt that
Alonso is outperforming the car somewhat like he was last season and in previous years with the Ferrari.
Oh, precisely. If you're going to want to put someone into a developing car, you put Fernando Alonso in there, wouldn't you? Someone, like you say, who outperforms the package, as it were.
But I'd like to say this: McLaren are known for bringing back their cars from effectively horrific packages. We've seen this, I believe it was 2009, when they had a horrific start to a season. Then after roughly Istanbul, wow, Lewis Hamilton ended up having I think it was the highest points in the second half of the season after barely getting about 30 all season. Do we think they can keep up this kind of heritage and bring back the car to pick up 7th, 8th places, maybe even top 5 periodically at the end of the season?
I don't think they're going to make that kind of jump, but I think they're going to definitely make the jump into the points during the European season.
Okay. It all depends on what Honda can do with their engine. If Honda can give them 70 to 80 more horsepower, then I think they will get in the points more frequently. But it depends on what Honda will do.
They're basically struggling for grunt down the straights, no matter how good they are around the twisty stuff.
And with acceleration, don't forget acceleration.
Yeah. We all agree on the fact that the V6 is turbos, V6 turbos.
Yeah, V6 turbo.
Yeah, they're more of a leap forward in terms of how the real world is in comparison to the previous V8s that we had. However, we all know that there is a huge cost in comparison to the V8s. Do we think that, well, even Bernie Ecclestone himself said the sport is becoming too expensive, and yet in the past we've known that Bernie and Max Mosley would just come in and deal with it and say, effectively, dictatorship, you charge this much for the engine. Why do we think that's not happening at this point in time? Is Bernie losing his influence, Ollie?
Maybe. I mean, he's getting old now.
He's 85.
85, right?
Yeah,
okay.
he's 90 in 5.5 years, so he's 84.
I don't know. I don't want Bernie to lose his influence, but I know nobody can live forever. But maybe he is. Maybe he's just losing grip of it.
EJ?
I think he's losing it because don't forget he had a lawsuit against him, so I think he doesn't have as much influence as he had before.
Stephen?
I think probably the better way to look at it is Bernie always has been and always will be a crowd pleaser. Whatever the crowd tend to go with, he sort of takes a step back, tries to survey the situation, and then puts his voice against what he thinks is going to be the winning combination. So he's basically getting his way on the engines, isn't he? Because they're talking about having a look at him in 2017 now, about making them, they always use the word cheaper but louder, which is something that he's campaigned about for a while. I personally, I'm getting used to the engines now. I like the idea of being able to hear the tyres and the clearer radio messages. Certainly with the way that if you talk sort of, what was it, Vettel and Alonso in Silverstone last year, it was quite nice to be able to hear them quite clearly, having a good rant and rave at each other. But is it right for the spectacle of the sport? Who knows? So yeah, Bernie's always been a clever guy. Always been a clever guy, and he hedges his bets. I don't think he's losing his grip, but I do think he's very carefully and cautiously picking and choosing, because of the lawsuit perhaps, which fights he's getting involved with.
Well, I believe he was quoted in his interview this last weekend with the BBC that he would leave F1 in a better state than it is in now, in 5.5 years' time, when he hits 90. Who do we see as a long-term successor, whether rumours being that possibly even Christian Horner? Who do we think is even possible to fill the boots, or is it multiple people that we could see taking his role, if you know what I mean, in terms of F1? EJ?
I have to skip on that one.
Okay. Ollie?
I think it's going to be they're going to be very big boots to fill. I don't think, as you say, one man can just take over from Bernie because he's been such a huge influence on the sport. Christian Horner, maybe. I mean, you need somebody with a character, and Christian Horner's not really got much of a character.
We need a bit of a showman, you're thinking?
Yeah, and I can't think of anyone off the top of my head, but I'm sure they'll find some. Maybe Eddie Jordan. Put Eddie Jordan in charge of F1.
It would add some comedic value, wouldn't it?
He would, yeah.
Well, you laugh and joke, but that's actually a fairly decent shout, and I'll tell you why. You want someone who's detached from the current formula. If you put Christian Horner in there, and I know he's been muted before, but it needs to be a very good politician, essentially. And a politician is very good at selling a story and whatnot. The thing is, what you get with Jordan would be, he would just tell it to you straight down the line. And that's kind of what Eccleston, in a roundabout way, does. He sort of, very cautiously and calmly, he does shoot from the hip, doesn't he? And when he says something, people do take notice. Whether Eddie Jordan would have the same influence or not, I'm not 100% certain. But I do think you want someone detached from the current formula, and someone who is politician-esque, shall we say, to be able to manage the rabble. And let's not get away from the fact they're all fighting for each other, whether it be on the track or in the back room. They're all trying to get an edge and advantage, and you'd need someone to be able to balance those kind of personalities.
Well, we all agree Bernie seems to have, I'm trying to think of the term, but an aura around him. EJ, effectively, Eddie Jordan could have the same kind of influence, and both of them have been team owners, team managers. It would make some kind of sense, in my opinion. But that is in the future, so who knows what it will bring and where the sport will end up at that point in 2020 when we see Eccleston hit 90. But let's go on to more things in the closer future. What are people's predictions with the European season coming up, with Spain bringing the general soiree of upgrade packages? EJ?
It all depends on what the upgrades will bring, but I think Ferrari will be a little bit closer to Mercedes. I think Williams has to bring a good upgrade to battle with Ferrari, but I don't think so. But the biggest problem is Renault. Renault has to step up the game really, really fast. Because Ricciardo's already on his 4th engine in 4 races time. He's already on his 4th engine. So I think Renault has to make the biggest leap forward.
Stephen, who do you think will make the biggest leap forward?
I think it needs to be Renault. I echo what EJ's saying. If they don't, as a world manufacturer, if they don't do something soon, their reputation, as tarnished as it always is going to take an even heavier battering. I mean, the drivers are finishing races despite the cars now, and no wonder people like Red Bull are pulling their hair out. I mean, Toro Rosso had done a pretty good job for the first 3 races to try and mask that, but had a terrible Bahrain. And just, you don't want to see scenes as dramatic as they are. As dramatic as they are, with Ricciardo crossing the line with plumes of smoke pouring out of his exhaust and coasting across the line. You just don't want to see that. The Honda, I think you've got to give a bit more leeway to. I mean, they're a year behind.
The first season.
Yeah, I mean, they're a year
but
behind.
Don't forget, they had already had 2 years to test their engine.
Yeah, but so did Mercedes. Before Mercedes had real life experience for a whole season. I don't think you can replicate in a lab a real life racing environment.
That's why we see when teams bring performance upgrades, they can quite work on the simulator perfectly fine, but if they don't work in real life with turbulent air, with winds coming from different angles, they can't always simulate that in a wind tunnel. So I think it's the similar sort of situation. Until you got real world experience on tarmac, you can't always predict everything what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's through a computer, isn't it? The computer is taking in all the variables for this, that, and the other. But with all the will in the world, the smartest computer in the world, it's a human that enters those variables.
The computer's only good
as good as the person that enters the data, yeah. And what was it? We've had F1 cars fail before because a 50 cents piece has failed because the construction of it was the wrong material. You can't take that variable into account on a computer because it's assumed through the wear testing and whatnot that the component will be fine. So I don't think there's any replication for real life experience, and that's why I say I'm prepared to give Honda a bit of the benefit of the doubt at the moment.
You have anything to add, Ollie?
No, I think they've covered it well.
That is everything we would like to say tonight. Thank you for listening in and tuning in. We shall be back on the 12th of May with the Barcelona review. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope to see you back then. Goodbye.
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 Good night.
Good afternoon.
Is EJ here?
No.
Okay, we'll wait for EJ.
Of course I'm here, you dumbass.